The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au. Welcome to the KRGS Doors podcast. I'm your host, Drew Blackman. The aim of our podcast is to talk to cool people with cool stories, whether it be our suppliers, customers, staff, other business owners, or people from different walks of life, and get to know them a bit better. If you're interested in coming on, drop us a line or email, or connect with us via Facebook, and we can have a chat to see what we can do. Today on episode 43 of the 2-year-old KRGS Doors podcast, I'm joined by KRGS Doors Managing Director Clayton Blackman, and we talk to Jason Nightingale, former superstar premiership winning rugby league player who is now a superstar in the business world, owning his own cafe, running a business school for elite athletes, working with St George Illawarra Dragons in their corporate commercial space, and also working with the NRL to help transition retiring players into life after sport, all while holding down a full-time job. I'll also let you in on our next episode's guest, but for now, please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Jason Nightingale.
If this doesn't turn you on, folks, you haven't got a switch.
Jason, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today. What is the Jason Nightingale story?
That's a question that it takes a long time to answer. But yeah, right now, retired. It's my 4th year in being retired from professional rugby league, and married, 3 kids. I got a 6-month-old or 5-month-old who's keeps us busy, and she's a lot of fun. And then a 6-year-old daughter and 4-year-old son, and other than that, a couple of businesses and a couple of jobs, and enjoying everything I'm doing in the afterlife, and still involved with rugby league through the NRL and through the Dragons, and sort of sit across a lot of things without trying to not be responsible for too much, I suppose.
Jace, you talk about your retirement there 4 years. Are you missing it?
No, it gets better the longer you go out. You do feel weird. I still dream about playing rugby league. I still wake up going, got that off-season thing going on, or I'm playing footy in my dreams. It's which is a bit strange. You think that would go away,
yeah.
But so that part never leaves you, which is it's kind of nice that it's such a big part of your life for so long, and it doesn't just go away. So try and emulate that in everything I'm doing, whether I'm exercising or applying myself.
I guess the thing, the injuries and the body soreness, you're not missing that part.
No, not really. I do crave a bit of body soreness every now and then, but I know how to get that, so I can just go out and punish myself every now and then if I do really crave that. But yeah, definitely not. I'm my own personal trainer at the moment, so I get to choose, and I think that having that choice, especially this time of year when you do witness a bit of pain, it's good to be able to train for aesthetics or when you want to, I suppose.
You're still looking fit, mate.
I was about to say, you put the boots back on tomorrow, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly right. Looks like you could be ready to run out now, mate.
That is probably 80% of why I train. So people like you guys can say, hey, you look like you still have to run.
Are you what?
Yeah, I'm Sean Timmins. I let that out of the book of Sean Timmins. Train so that people will say you look like you can still play. And that's
you waiting on a phone call from Wayne Bennett, mate, to see if you get the call up to the Dolphins or something like that?
Oh, no, I think you're just waiting on the call to, like Nathan Feen, to get a coaching gig and sit in the coach's box.
You'd be one of the young blokes actually up at the Dolphins. They've signed a few old blokes up there, haven't they? You'd probably be a rookie up there.
I'm not sure. I think Wayne understands how to build.
No doubt, mate.
The right leaders in there. I think he did that when he went up to
no doubt
Newcastle.
Yeah.
Well, even coming to Saints, I think he got the right people there, and it proved dividends, and we'll probably talk about that shortly. But you mentioned former rugby league player. How did you start in rugby league?
I was just moved over from New Zealand and was living in Oatley. Just got taken down the park and introduced to the great renowned United Club. You blokes might be familiar with.
Yes,
we are. We spoke about that and saying that the 3 people sitting around this table have all played with your renowned United at some stage.
Yeah. So and I think from there we just started training in the park, and I remember how much I loved tackling. Was the first thing I remember. Just being able to chase people down and make tackles and end of the game, go out, how many tackles did I make, and tackle count was always fun. So I remember we trained at like a little park that's like there's a swing set and stuff, and so we train, play at the swing set, train in the park, and I think having that connection to friends and that really is what it built on.
What age were you when you first went to Renown, Jace?
Under 8s was my first year.
Yeah.
So I was 7 or 8, and I played there until I moved back to New Zealand for a couple of years, and we were a lot of good friends, and then moved back there and played.
You weren't always a winger.
Nah, well, it's everywhere. Every played mostly centre, and you don't have positions when you're a kid.
No.
I think when they started putting positions in, I played fullback mainly, but also played a bit of 6 because get your hands on the ball.
Yeah.
A bit of centre, bit of 6, bit of 1. Not wings, and that was especially early days. That wasn't the most desired position.
No, exactly right.
It's a pretty important position now, though, in the NRL that you see some of the wingers, the stuff they do of how important that wing of bringing the ball back with the strong carry, but then also the finisher as well. Yeah,
well, I think it's probably the big change in from juniors is when people start kicking, and that becomes strategic side of that. That doesn't happen till you're a teenager. So, that early carries and that really big part of it, but also diffusing bombs and also creating tries through kicking, and also being able to time things on the end. So, I think it was cool to, I suppose, grow up. Watching that transition, that change through. You look at Wendell and Lottie, and Wendell reminds me that they started it, and they did.
Hard to believe from Wendell.
And they did. To be fair, so that transition, and then we had early days Matt Utai and those sort of guys have that changing. It wasn't so much about the body type; it was more the way you did it, and it didn't matter what size you were, whether you were as big as Dell or as short as Matty Utai. It was just the way you do it.
Ideally, mate, the wingers are over 100 kilos, like to bring back those early carries and like an extra forward, but they also got to run the 100 under 10 seconds type of thing, don't they? They need to be to be quick.
I think it's a whole mix. And you look across the best wingers in our game now. You got Josh Adokars would be Matt maybe 5'11" and maybe 90 kilos.
Yeah, ring and wet.
Yeah, so you got that, and Brian Toto is 5'8", and he'd still be 90 plus kilos.
Yeah,
but that difference in that, and then you got Daniel Tupou, also if he's tall and athletic, and I think that range of it is it's not big.
No.
Guys, it's all these. It's what you do with it. And
athletic.
The athletic, and it's different type of athleticism where you're good in the air, or you're good on the ground, or you're powerful. Or I think that range of athletic ability is what's interesting about the mold of I suppose the modern day rugby league player in general, not just
exactly, mate. It's completely changed from the early days, isn't it?
It's interesting looking at that too, and as you said, that whole athletic and making what works for you. Like you mentioned, Brian Toto, only a short little stubby guy, but is probably the best winger at the moment in the game.
Gets his 250 metre run meters each week,
That's
doesn't he?
right.
Like it's hard to stop.
And even when you were playing, Jace, that you probably weren't the most athletic, and I say that with no offence, but you made it work for what you had and become one of the best players or best wingers in the game as well.
Well, I think that's it. Just like probably a good example is the athletics comes away in different ways. I was good at different things that are subtle and probably not as noticed. So power and strength, big part of was very good wrestler. Ironically, helps especially when you're trying to play the balls or beat defenders and that sort of thing. So with what you get, and definitely not your traditional. I think that was your probably 80s winger was just run fast, and that was it. So that's changed a lot. And
you just had to be on the end of the back line, mate, to catch and put the ball in.
But run fast.
That's right.
Run fast.
They didn't necessarily go looking for the ball.
Whereas the other part of it is brings in more dynamic, powerful, strong wingers, and finding the mix of that with those who can catch and have good hands. And
that's right.
That's what. And then definitely having all those in different orders can help.
Yes,
absolutely.
Mate, you made your debut for the great St George Illawarra Dragons in 2007. Do you remember that day?
I do very well. Yeah, everyone remembers their debut, and I think it's because you relive it so many times, mainly in your mind. Yeah, I don't think I've ever watched my debut again, other than the video review the week after, and that's how the seasons run. You play a game, you review it, and you don't watch it.
Move
again.
on to the next one.
Move on to the next one, and hope it comes up on a Fox Classics game in the future.
Vossie's 80s hits or whatever.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I remember it very well. I think privileged to be able to debut at Cog Oval. Yeah, that was pretty special to be able to do that in front of home crowd, and especially being a St. George junior, growing up and playing there a lot, whether it would be playing rugby league or sporting carnivals or going to the games.
Junior games for renown and so forth. Exactly.
So usually the big events are there. With playing semi-finals or grand finals,
that's
you
right.
get the privilege of that, and that's what it felt like as well. We obviously played their junior reps, but it was pretty cool to do it at Cogra.
Yeah, good on you.
And obviously the 2010 Dragons Grand Final was a highlight for you?
Yeah, that was we caught up a couple of months ago, which is great. So, good connecting and those memories don't leave us, and those relationships don't either. I think that's probably the key thing from it, whether it will be your staff you're catching up with or the players on your team. And quite often, I think, especially myself, I keep close to a lot of them anyway. I speak to probably 90% of them, not regularly, but at least a couple of times a year. So I think that's because of what we shared and the work that we put in to get there. And I think that's everyone. It's won a premiership, especially at the Dragons, who had a bit of a dry spell. I'm sure it'd be like Para if they if they get one in the next bit, they'll become part of history. And I think that's the bond that we share together, is that we were able to do that and what we did to earn that. And also the other part of it that is built and you can see emulated in winning teams is the culture's genuine. So when you do, you get successful because you've built something good from the start, from the ground up, and that's genuine. And then the product of building that good culture, working for each other, and the talent that's involved in the room generates success.
And I guess the other thing, I've seen some highlights on that, Jace, it obviously comes back to, what's that, say 13 years ago since that grand final, and the culture. Obviously all the old players bought in. Wayne was there, Wayne Bennett was there. So you can obviously see what he built and the respect with the players and the coach and so forth, with him coming along to that as well. And I think the highlight was I've seen something where you sung the song. Benny Cray belted out the song, so it was so nice to see that type of thing and still that mateship.
Yeah, it was really cool, and I think we probably anytime you have a reunion, let's do this more often and speak more often. We stay connected and that sort of thing, because you do share these moments, whether it be you finish school together or whatever it is. They're big things for us.
Yeah.
Individuals, obviously big for our club, and it's it's part of history. But I think the human connection and care and love for each other that we have from that time, it won't go away, and we need to celebrate it more, I suppose. Definitely with our group, but also with our club.
It was funny that night, because we're obviously massive Dragon supporters, as you can tell by this room. But in 2010, Mum and Dad were living at Bexley, and it was funny. They moved to Bexley in 1977, and we won the grand final. Saints won the grand final. They moved in 2010, and Saints won the grand final. We didn't win one in between.
79.
79, I should say, 79. But yeah, so it was just funny. But ironically, we're St. George Leagues Club members. So after the game, we watched it at Mum and Dad's place, and after the game, we went straight down to the Leagues Club. So all the members could take in one. All the public were lined up, weren't they? And all the members could take in one person. So the four of us, we were all members. We walked in and we could take one of the public. So we didn't have to buy a beer all night. These guys bought us beers all night, right? But that bar downstairs at the Leagues Club, if you got stabbed, you couldn't fall over. Like it was jam packed. I was hugging blokes that I'd never met in my life, you know what I mean? But it was just the excitement of winning the grand final. And downstairs there, we must have sung the song, I don't know, 50 times or something. You know what I mean? This is why you guys are still at the ground. And then you just come back to Cogger and bought the trophy back, and we all went from the Leagues Club over to the ground when you just bought the. But the just some of the things that I remember from that night. St George Leagues Club, for people that don't know, is on the Princes Highway, and there's 3 lanes of traffic out the front. It's 3 lanes wide, and the people from St George Leagues Club spilled out into the car park onto Princes Highway. So the first 2 lanes of Princes Highway was taken up with people. So there was only 1 lane of traffic getting through southbound out the front of out the front of St George Leagues.
Yeah,
I've never seen so many people.
It was pretty epic, and when we get back to a packed stadium, of when there's been no game there, it was
it was awesome.
It was cool to be able to share that.
I still remember singing "We Are the Champions" there,
that's
with everyone.
Right.
It was tremendous. Benny Hornby carried that trophy down. So, mate, you also played 33 games for New Zealand. You come to Australia as a young kid, but was that a proud moment pulling on that black jersey?
It was, yeah. My parents had moved back to New Zealand by the time I debuted for them. So yeah, getting them to the game, and also my sister was living in New Zealand, so getting them over for that. And yeah, another I think privilege for myself was playing that in Sydney. I grew up in Sydney my whole life. I still live here, and it was pretty cool to play for my country of heritage, and in the city I grew up in. I think that was it was a pretty cool moment, and it's definitely a proud point in my career, being able to play for my country, but so many times, and all those experiences and people that I got to play with outside, play for one club, being able to experience playing with other players from other teams and other clubs, and I really made I suppose spice up the club life a bit. 33
games, Jace, for New Zealand. That'd have to be in the top 10 of Kiwi play, like most games played.
I'm not sure. Probably.
You think of Stacey Jones, Simon
Ruben
Mannering,
Ruben
Wiki.
I think Simon Mannering's number 1, Ruben Wiki's number 2, and that's probably where my trivia
Benji would be up there.
No, Benji's not.
No.
He had a few years off in between there.
What's the halfback from the Kiwis?
Sean Johnson.
Sean Johnson. I would have thought he would.
Jesse Bromwich, Adam Blair.
Yeah,
those guys.
Yeah, Adam Blair would have big numbers.
Adam Blair and Jesse Bromwich should be up there. That Ruben Wiki. I know Simon Mannering's number 1, Ruben Wiki's number 2, and that Adam Blair, Isaac Luke as well. A lot.
But that's until I just read that now, 33 games. Yeah, that's a proud stat.
Yeah.
Are both your parents New Zealand?
Yeah.
So what was it like for them, for their son to pull on their sort of heritage as well?
Yeah, well, they watched me play a lot of first grade, or I was only second year in by the time, but I think they're proud Kiwis, obviously. But I suppose the biggest kick got from my grandparents. I lived with my grandparents for a couple of years, and they weren't, grow up around NRL at all. They grew up a bit around rugby and that, but I suppose being able to represent New Zealand was them that only ever lived in New Zealand, and outside of my mum and dad and my sister, the rest side of that family have only ever lived in New Zealand. So,
proud moment for them.
It was, and I think that's they're still back there now, and I still try and, if I bring back some gear from there, my wife makes me clear out my closet every time I go back there, and they're still rocking it and enjoying. I suppose that I did represent that side of it is the only side of my family. So it's pretty cool to be able to put on that black jersey.
And that's the things as a fan you sort of see the players go through that, but you don't realise the whole family connection, and I think that's why international rugby league is so important, that it continues along, because you see that the heritage and that type of thing for the family, not just the player.
It is, and I think that's it's like there's nothing like when you're growing up, and especially when you're representing a country, it does feel a lot more about your heritage. I'm lucky enough to represent where I grew up as well, being St George District and St George Illawarra Dragons. So that's something that was always close to me, and I always represented something that was close to me already. So whether it be my country, and I love Australia, don't get me wrong. I love Sydney, and I'll live here forever. But that throwback to where you came from and how you got where you got was always a special part, and that's part of the Kiwi culture that is very strong. Identifying where you come from, and no matter if your background is Samoan, Chinese, Australian, even Nathan Feen, for example, that culture gets celebrated.
Yeah, no, that's tremendous. And part of that, you were the winning World Cup in 2008. What was that tournament like?
Yeah, that was awesome. That was my insight into Wayne Bennett. He came to the Dragons.
He
in
coached you.
2009.
He coached you that.
Yeah,
year?
him and Stephen Carney Carney and then Wayne were coaching. Wayne was assistant, but just really running a really high level advisory. All the trainers and stuff were doing their job, and Wayne was just sort of mentoring the whole time. And I think he chimed in at key times and gave an insight. But I also think that squad was a hungry squad. A lot of really good talent in there that were mature in the right time of their career, and they had the golden period in that where I definitely reaffirmed my decision was when 2005, 2006, watching those Tri Nations series and fell in love with the Kiwis, watching them, and got a bit of success then, and had a couple of off years, and that culminated in coming back in 2008 and building from there. I had quite a sort of a golden period in New Zealand Rugby League where we won a World Cup, Four Nations 2010, another Four Nations in 2015, world number one for a little bit. And I think it's, despite, the couple of years ago, probably years before that, where there were some lean years, it's in a really good condition. I think we saw that the International Rugby League in general, I love watching that World Cup, and seeing how the heritages came out with the Samoa, New Zealand should have really been in that final and found a way not to. I think that really is another dynamic to our game that, obviously the NRL is big and we love our clubs, but the country representation and the way that the emotion that gets out of it and gets out of you. And I think that was awesome to see. And even the Aussies, for winning that World Cup and what they did, and they had to go through a bit to beat New Zealand. And then to get past the emotion of Samoa. I think it showed what it meant to them as well.
Aren't they going to be a powerhouse, Samoa and Tonga and those newish identities? To the rugby league part, they're going to be huge.
They will, and I think that's where especially if you've got even if a Tongan kid grows up in Australia or New Zealand, which is so common.
Yes.
Even you've got in the future where Lebanon's a good example as well. All growing up in Australia, playing was where we play rugby league, we play in New Zealand as well, but. Here, England, New Zealand is where we play a lot, and especially professionally. So you want to be professional, you come to Australia, New Zealand, or England. But having that in those countries' connection to it, where they're calling upon their heritage, and it's how they got there today, whether that be first, second generation. It's part of their story, and being able to celebrate that. Yeah,
someone like Hazem El Masri, being able to go to a World Cup for his Lebanon country would be something he'd love, I'm sure. But just on the Samoa and Tonga, we were driving around and we were out on the road, and you'd see the flags on the cars, every second car sort of had one on it, and just showing their love for it, which is good to see. So,
exactly. I think we saw that, and we were unfortunately on the other end of that at Kiwis when Tonga, a lot of their players defected, Jason Taumalo, and they beat the Kiwis in a game there, and that was probably that period where New Zealand Rugby League had to find their identity because Tonga had. Samoa was next. I feel like they've found their identity. If they can keep that rolling, they'll have the same sort of effect on selections between Australia and New Zealand and these island nations, which is good for the game.
And I think it's good too that the NRL players, you see Jerome Luai, who probably had a choice that he probably could have played for Australia, but no, I'm going back to my heritage and play for them and built that up and possibly could have won a World Cup. So it's really good to see. You mentioned Wayne Bennett there. You've had him as a club coach, and you've also had him as a country coach. What's so special about Wayne? We had Nathan Feen on a couple of episodes ago, and he nothing but raps about Wayne. What's your take on Wayne Bennett?
Nathan was very conflicted in that conversation, being employed by Wayne Bennett at the time.
I didn't take that into consideration. So you can spill the beans now, mate, if you're not employed by him.
Nah, I was pretty much spilling the beans on Feeny there.
It was funny.
He was paid to say.
It's funny, Jace, because Feensy was coaching for My Touch Football Club. He coached these under-12 boys.
Oh, so he's abandoned them.
He brushed us. Yeah, he's brushed us, right? Yeah. So when he came on, and I said, mate, what's Wayne Bennett got that we haven't got? How much is he paying?
He
got an extra zero. Yeah. He got an extra zero on his contract with Wayne, but
The fact that he was demanding money out of the under 12 touch
Correct,
coaching job, I think that gives
The parents had to pass the hat around.
So no,
Hope you're listening, Frenzy.
He was he was great. The timing was right. He's the best man manager in the game, and he sees an opportunity and knows how to get it done. That's it. He's got a self-belief. He creates self-belief within a group. He can manage people better and get the best out of them. That's what coaching is all about. It's not about your technical nous, your detail. It's about, here's the plan. If you do this, you'll be better. And I think that if you can take that, and I think professional sport in general, if you can take a lot of those lessons from being the best version of yourself, you can apply that to anything. And that's what Wayne did. It's what are you doing when no one's looking at you? What are you doing when you've had your fifth beer and you're thinking about your next one and your next training session's 2 days away? Are you doing the best thing by you? Because at the end of the day, we're all quite self-motivated and for the team goal. And if he knows how to manage that, therefore get the best out of the individual, which leads to the team. And all those lessons, carried on through my own life, and I'm sure everyone that has been coached for them and bought into everything, because it hasn't been success and sunshine and roses everywhere, but he knows how to get it done, and that can't be questioned. It hasn't been able to get questioned since the early 90s. So, we're back a lot of years on from then, and he's still doing it. So, he does have a way about him, and it has an effect on those that play and buy in. That's it. That's the other thing. You can't take credit away from he hasn't won a competition since us in 2010. Yeah. He's come close a lot of times, but at the end of the day, the credit has to go back to that team and the hungry. And that's what he allows you to do. If you want to buy in, you want to be your best, this is what you can do. And
he gives you the tools.
We grab the opportunity.
Yeah. I was, in our conversation with Feensy, I got the opportunity when Wayne first came to Saints in 2009. I'm a footy club member, so we got to go along to the footy club meeting, and they brought Wayne out, and Wayne had a quick chat to the members and so forth. But the thing that impressed me, you talk about buy-in. I've been to these meetings before, and there's been bugger all players or some lower grade players turn up in their polos, right? We go to this meeting, the top 25 players are all there at this meeting in their polos, all dressed professional, thinking, shit, haven't seen this before. You mean? So the players are buying in.
I'd say we would have got told to be there.
Oh, no doubt.
I don't want to kill your buzz.
No doubt, Jace, no doubt. But I was ready to run out for Wayne after him speaking just to the members. Yeah. I mean, that was in 2009. So when you talk, like when I'm a member and I'm ready to go out and play for him, I can imagine what it's like for the players.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. And, that's probably a good example where, we would have told to be there. But what other coaches were going to make us but do that? What other coach found that important to engage
to the members,
people that are, some of the biggest stakeholders in your game?
Yeah, exactly.
Feensy mentioned, and I did ask the question, that the 2010 grand final, half-time, I think Wayne's speech, he sort of said, get back to play Dragons footy. You were down at the time, I think.
8-6 against the Roosters.
And he just come in and said, we're not playing like Dragons, get back to play Dragons footy. And that was it, like probably the biggest moment of the year. And he's come in with like 5 or 6 simple words. Yeah.
I only, honestly, in most halftime speeches, I can digest 5 or 6 words anyway. So, and that's most, like I'm a winger, so a little bit more airheady than most, but that's all you take in. Like, you don't take in any, his nemesis, Brian Smith, he tells a story like he would have had, his drawings, his stats, all this other stuff everywhere. And that's, I've had coaches like that. There's been plenty where they want to tell you the 3% you're missing is because of your tackle efficiency. And look, it doesn't mean anything to you in the moment, and doesn't mean anything to, and that as a brand that we built, Dragons footy, being the way we played that year. That's all, for 2 years, sorry. That's the way we played for 2 years. We knew what that was. It was simple. It wasn't, it wasn't kick here on the fourth, or this is it wasn't nothing to do with
tackled
tactics.
On that blade of grass.
Yeah, it was a brand that we'd built.
Yeah.
Dragons footy was our style. It was sometimes called boring. We defended like nothing else.
Yeah.
And we set simple plays done well over and over and over again. And that's what he meant from that stop making mistakes. That was probably the biggest thing at halftime.
Yeah.
That's not us. And then we were nervous, and that was it. And we have I remember the semi-final one as well, and these are probably
Against the Tigers?
Yeah, where he just said we're playing the opposite. It was like we're playing Dragons footy. They're playing as good as they can play. They can't keep it up. You can, and they could keep it up, but we won. But because it was the opposite. It was like whereas we played poorly in the first half against the Roosters, we were playing well against the Tigers. It was a high quality game of football, and you just we were down. We were losing.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing well. Like you're doing everything right. They're playing out of their skin. You're playing well. You continue at that level that you know you can for another 40 minutes, and you win the game. And it was the outcome, but the Tigers didn't relent. But we did get there. We were that probably 1 point better than them.
13-12.
It's interesting how, and as you said, probably man manager, that you don't have to come in and rant and rave. And I remember Peter Sterling said about Jack Gibson. One grand final, I think it might have been. They were winning. He didn't even go down to the dressing shed because he was happy with what they were doing.
Yeah, well, Wayne was partially mentored by Jack Gibson, so some of those he would have known that story inside and out, and he probably he pulled that as well. Wayne's pulled that effort before, where they don't turn up. Sometimes because he didn't want to talk to us.
He had the shits.
No, most of the time it was that just not needed, not required.
Yeah, not required. Just do what you're doing.
You know, don't need you're in the game. So, I suppose that the reason you can say that is because of the 2 years before. You don't win a grand final in the next 40 minutes because of win it because of what happened before that. So, the fact that simple message meant we knew exactly what to do was because we'd been doing it for 2 years, not because he said it. It was because we knew what it meant. And we knew what it meant because of every training session, every game, every minute we'd spent with each other before that. It meant enough to us to not have to be told the rest of it. And I think it's we're all self-motivated, and as a team we earned it.
You talk about Wayne's nemesis, Brian Smith. He coached me at James Cook High School.
Yeah, you and everyone else.
Brad Mackay. You had a few there, mate.
No, it's funny.
He's had a few clubs, Smithy.
2017 was my last tournament with the Kiwis. It was the World Cup, and he was one of our
mentors.
Yeah, mentors. He was like a coaching.
That's right, because he was doing a bit over with the Warriors at that time too.
Exactly. So it was my last tournament. And, he was just into me this session, the early session, and then I was like, "What's your problem?" And he's like, "Brett Morris stepped out," and I go, "Oh."
He's hanging on to it.
I see your issue. And I said, "You coached that day." I did know, but in the moment when I'm doing fitness and he's into me, I'd forgotten. I was like, "Oh, okay." Anyway, I was like, "Yeah," put an arm around him later and I go, "Mate, yeah, that was." But so did BJ Lulu knocked on, and the other one was forward. So you got it back. Don't worry.
But here's my premiership ring. Do you want to have a look at it?
I know. And he knows, and we all know that it wasn't the difference between winning and losing when the score finishes at 32-8.
100%.
32-8. That was the day.
Mate, you scored a number of spectacular tries throughout your career. Does one stick out?
No. Tries that stick out to me are ones that mean the most for the team, whether it be coming back and winning on the bell or a moment that was important to the team, not so much individually. I see highlights and people show those ones that look spectacular and they're cool, but it was more about what they meant in the moment. And definitely the second try in the 2010 grand final sticks out because of what it meant, where it was, and what it meant for us. Also scored a try in 2010 in the Kiwis game that was their second last try that got us back into it. We went on to win that on the bell. Those moments that are tries in big games, it's about the moment in the game or what it meant rather than the actual try. So if I scored a spectacular try and we were winning by 30 anyway, or we were losing by 20, it just doesn't really matter. It's more the
They were all spectacular tries made in the 2010 grand final. You started the Avalanche.
The comeback. I have to mention one, and it's shown on the highlights all the time. I think it was at Cogra, and I think you may have come off afterwards. It hurt your neck. You nearly buried your head into the ground.
Head first.
Yeah. The legs were over. Yeah.
That was a terrible try. There was nothing good good about that. And no, I didn't really hurt my neck. That was the surprise. I landed right on my head. But yeah, we do a lot of work on, especially that year. We were doing so much neck work, which is great because it's you know, it helps you avoid concussion is probably the biggest thing. And yeah, we done a lot of work that week so that my neck was strong enough to jump and land on it and not get injured, other than a bit of shock. And I think I headbutted you and Aitken after it.
I thought you were going to come out as Gladstone Small, mate. Yeah, a bit shorter in the neck.
And you mentioned this is about your fourth year retired. So you retired when you were 32. Did you, two-part question, did you know it was time that you had to retire? And then possible thoughts on going over to the UK Super League?
Being the one club player that wasn't as attractive to me to go to any other NRL team or to the Super League. And yeah, I had a 1-year contract at the Dragons, but we weren't going great. We were going great, but like we actually had a really good season in 2018. But I think the fundamentals of our trajectory were not great, and I might have been scrapping it out in reserve grade. The way I was playing, I wasn't playing well. So I knew that was time. I could have played on, but it would have been for the wrong reasons. I think if you're a professional athlete, you have to be giving everything. And I was thinking of, if I didn't retire, then how do I make next year a good year to transition? And that doesn't happen. You end up not being good enough to play first grade if you go with that mentality. So I thought the time was right on that level to go to Super League. Lived in Sydney a whole lot. My second kid, my wife was a criminal lawyer and a banker and has her own career. So it wasn't. It's
it's time to give back.
Well, yeah, exactly, and not just that. She's got a career she was building, a second kid. It just would have been chasing to play rugby league more, which I love the game, but there's better ways to hold on, I suppose. Yeah. And I'd always worked hard at putting myself in the right place to transition, but you can do as much as you want. There's still
Jace,
different.
did you get any offers, mate, from Super League when you retired?
Your manager asks about whether you want to pursue it, and
you just said I'd had enough.
Yeah, I said if Toronto are keen, I'd maybe go to convince my wife to move to Canada,
because they were paying big bucks too, mate, weren't they?
And then other than that, no, we looked at one other NRL club briefly. It was 2 years, but nothing that made me want to go and do that, and especially that what the club meant to me. And I knew the good history of Dragons and being able to. I think I wanted to be aligned to that for the rest of the time.
It's not too many opportunities, mate, where you can say I'm a one club man. You don't see that sort of loyalty now.
Yeah, and they did offer me a 1-year contract. It was just it was one of those ones where it's like, stay, but.
Yeah. Just remember 1:30 at Wollongong Stadium. We train a bit earlier down here at Wollongong, right? Yeah, you might be down at reserve grade. Yes. It's good that you've been able to have that still that relationship with the Dragons, mate, working alongside of those people. Currently what you're doing.
Yeah,
at the Dragons.
It's great. Yeah, just doing a bit in the commercial, help out a little bit in football, not too much, and just staying connected. It's I go to most of the home games, pretty much every home game, and help out in commercial partnership space. So businesses that are involved in the club and people that invest a lot of money with the club, and being able to make sure that they get delivered on what their expectations are, whether that be marketing or branding, and then just helping the club in a promotional sense when required. And there's a lot of good people there, and I work with Jamie Lattimore's.
He's a loose unit.
James last year, and our commercial teams really good bunch of people. So there's some some good things happening in our club at that level, and I think I suppose the business back office side is heading in the right direction, well, hopefully the team will head in the right direction too, I think now.
Jace, did anyone in the media reach out to you about trying to do some radio or TV once you're retired at all?
Little bit. So I do still. I don't say no to that sort of thing. Yeah, yeah, random podcast crews and a little bit here and there. But that's very. And I think most people, other than a few people that do it full time, it's very. Are you free now? Are you free then? And
yeah,
I certainly don't say no. Usually. But no, that's great. I do more head for radio like you two.
100%, no arguments here.
But yeah, no, I do.
That's
I do
why
like
this podcast is not being video.
But I think that's when it comes down to prioritising time and development. It's like having 3 kids and family. It's like a big ask.
You got enough on your plate.
Yeah.
Do you find, just on that commercial side of things, do you find being a former player and knowing the history of the club and everything like that, it's a little bit easier? You're walking in and obviously the people you're talking to obviously want to be part of the Dragons, and I guess their first discussion is about 2010 and your career as such, and then you can start, hey, sign this piece of paper and we'll sort the rest out.
It can be good and bad, especially when it's rugby league related. They expect you to have more insight into it, and they'll hit you with those questions that if you're doing a straight commercial deal where you're going to be on the jersey being spotted by millions of fans and it'll make your brand look good, and they don't care about that, then the next step is how are we going to go and the performance base and why did they lose this game? Why did this happen?
They want to ask you questions about Hook and all that sort of stuff.
You're confused at what I'm selling. But yeah, no, I think it does help in any, like it probably doesn't necessarily help in sports entertainment because they're paying for the marketing and the branding or whatever. There's certain experiences that, yes, you can make better and the ability to do that. But it helps in the real world more, like as much. Or, there's sport is whether that be, our biggest sport in New South Wales being rugby league is a great icebreaker. I'm sure you guys use it all the time.
Yeah, we do.
And I think that's the opportunity outside of directly the club you work with. I talk NRL, I talk whatever, but that language that connects people.
Everyone's got a footy club.
No matter who they're going for
That's
or what
right.
sport, I can talk 5 different sporting languages and about 10 different clubs. So, and that is probably the differentiator I'm sure you guys use, that doing it, kind of variety podcast, but sport is such a good connector for people, breakdowns of all, and allows people to develop business and relationships that surpass the actual, whether
we get
building
some of
roller
our
shutters or
we get some of our suppliers come into our business now, and we're not necessarily talking business, we're talking footy, don't we?
Yeah.
Come in and talk about the weekend's game or the different players, and it's
so I think that's what I, especially in transition when I'm not playing anymore, that's what I really like about it is I can talk about it and know a little bit more than Joe Punter. Some Joe Punters tell me how much more they know than me, and that's fine.
I think you're trying to get them on the coaching staff, so it's not necessarily corporate.
Yeah, so they no, but I think that's what I like, that brings down those boundaries. And then when I can go to Magic Round or Mudgee for the Charity Shield, and say apologies to my wife, but I've got to go to Mudgee for work for 3 days, or sorry, I got to go to Brisbane for work for 3 days. I think that
meet and greet.
Yeah, it's like when you pretend you like golf and go play golf 18 holes and
shake hands, kiss babies, that type of
it's work. It's work, babe. So being a break from the other hecticness of whether that be real jobs or getting a break from family. Not that I choose to do it.
Is Lattimore going away with you to Magic Round?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. He does the Origin trip, so we also do an Origin trip, which is not bad, to Brisbane, and he did that last year. So I pretty much self-fund Magic Round, unfortunately. Don't tell my wife that. But we do an Origin trip as well, and he came out of that. I got COVID for that last year, but him and James went and looked after our 30-odd people on the Origin trip. So that's the one that I need to tick the box to make sure I've fulfilled my Dragons commitments next year.
Got all the experience then, mate. The Magic Round,
Mudgee, that's what I mean. I haven't done the Origin.
Yeah.
It's the last box left to tick on my corporate. Sean Timmins has done 5 of them. There's plenty of Latsy's done his second now, and I just feel like I need to be part of that to make sure.
Absolutely.
I've done the Grand Slam of footy tours.
Absolutely.
Mate, just quick fire 4 questions, and if you have any stories to go with them. The best player you played with and against?
I Different times and different stages. I think you get people in their peak. I had Benji in his peak when he was at the Kiwis. That was pretty awesome. 2010, 11, those years he was a master, and still close to him today. So getting to see the way he played with him at the Dragons and the way he approaches his game, really like that. I reckon he probably wasn't in our game for long enough. Semirad Raja was pretty impressive in terms of on the wing. He had like the complete package in terms of the modern day winger. You know, he's tall, big, good in the air, strong,
mobile,
powerful, can finish
fast.
a try, fast. I think that though, I reckon.
Did you have to mark him, Joe?
Yeah, a couple of times. And I reckon he was pretty good. You look at it's just I think that well-rounded package. I'm sure he's got a well-rounded package in France at the moment. But so I think him. I think the prototype winger really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Mate, the best sledge you ever heard?
I used to get weird. I used to like Ennis is annoying, and Highmarsh is pretty good. Early in my career, he would just niggle and whisper and sweet nothings and that. But it's like when I was first starting out, I played with Nick Youngquest a little bit, and he used to like just. This is my style as well. Like distract, talk about something else with the opposition. So I remember we were playing Penrith. He was at Penrith at the time, and Chase Stanley was inside me, and he was still in high school, and high school kid trying to play was playing first grade. And Nick's like at the other end playing on wing opposite me, going, so like, tell me about your studies. How's your HSC going? And like all this stuff, and just would not stop talking about anything other than what we were currently doing or anything to do with sporting ability. I really like that. They're just random conversations while you're playing that are completely unrelated, that just completely distract. I reckon.
Did you have a bit of a chuckle?
Yeah, it was good, and Nick was still nice today, and I think that's.
He's a model now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's modelling and doing. Yeah, he's back in the Shire where he belongs. So, but yeah, I like that sort of casual banter.
It is good.
And best end of season trip?
We did Vegas, which is the best and worst. That's what Dean Young calls it, the best and worst times of your life. Because of the way you feel after 4 days. But yeah, definitely. It was really cool because we got a lot of our squad over there, and it was Dean Young and Ben Hornby's last year. So I think we had about 13 go to Vegas there, and really close-knit group off the back of that. And sort of the obviously leaders of our club, captain and vice captain, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys retiring. So it was like a celebration of them. And getting everyone to go, and it was pretty cool. So it was a nice way to have a little bit of a send off,
End of an era type of thing.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have been much sleep on that trip, Joe.
Well, no, there was. Yeah, that's what I said. The best times when you, and then the worst times.
Only bit of sleep was coming on the plane coming home.
Yeah, exactly. So no, that was cool, and to go to America and get Vegas is a culture shock. Even
it's a city that never
America.
sleeps, mate.
Yeah, so that was cool.
And funniest teammate?
Early days when Trent Merrim was youthful, he was always pretty fun. Like you could wind him up to do anything, and that's the best when you trying to impress senior players and you just sit there and have a little committee of senior players. What can we get this guy to do today? And we'd plan, and you wind him up, and he'd go and do it. So yeah, he was pretty funny. And Michael Wayman used to just absolutely just think of all these. Michael Wayman was a 24-year-old granddad. And just think of all this. Yeah, it was just ridiculous. Some of the things they used to get him to do, and he's great. He's such a good sport.
Well, tell us about Jace when you's the bus. What was the bus called?
Tonya.
You were part of the bus.
Yeah, so
you used to travel from Sydney down to Wollongong.
Yeah, so we started the bus. I hijacked one of our buses in. We were using our leagues club in 2012, and 2012, 2013. We had quite a big. Sydney contingent.
Yeah, so James Graham, Lats.
No, this is before. Before that. So we had this bus, and we had like Cameron King, Tyson, Frizzell. I think Dukes might have been at the start of it, and then we had it for a couple of years, and then some people moved down, and we had less than 10. So we're like, we'll give and they actually took the bus back off us to use it for.
He's got
juniors.
Sponsorship and everything with it.
Next time, I'm like, let's do this right, and that's when I so I did it right. We said. I'm going to go to.
So you marketed it?
Yeah,
got
no, I went
sponsored?
to my my car sponsor, Toyota, Hurstville and Canterbury, and said, "Can you get us a bus?" And we had this bus, and they took it off us. It was this bus that we had, and we could drive, and they were like, "But it's quite expensive." So I said, "Yep." Now I've got people that are on 6-figure salaries. Going to ask them for literally something like $40 a week or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh man, I know how much you earn. This is actually literally going to save you money because you don't have to pay petrol." And you know. Anyway, so we did that, and begrudgingly they'd give me. Sometimes they'd pay me, sometimes they wouldn't. And then eventually we got an opportunity to bring on a sponsor, and Auto Craze jumped on, and they did, they paid for the bus for the 2 years. And so we just made a bit of fun with it, and we had a really good crew. We had Latsy, James Graham, who
Duff.
hated it, Dufty, Jacob Host, Corey Norman was in the back end, and Dukes. We had all this. It was fun.
It was some good fun.
Tyson, Benj, it was good. It was really good fun, and it was just the way we were always communing and going down, and we just made a bit of fun out of it, and especially we weren't having great times, and that was probably the hardest thing, was having fun and socially, and then getting like, hey, well, we're just doing this to have fun. It's not affecting I think it was really good, but we always had that rivalry and the camaraderie of driving down together, spending the time, and it really makes that trip from Sydney to Wollongong. It's actually not a bad trip when you realise you got to travel
go like that with
from Cogra.
Yeah, we used to go. Yeah, and we started Cogra and pick us up in the Shire, and then go down to Wollongong and take 55 minutes.
And you're having fun on the board. I remember seeing some Instagram posts that there was some dice, I believe, on board, and if you rolled something, you had to eat a chili, or I believe one of the boys actually got dropped to Wollongong Station and had to get the train back home one time.
That was Dufty.
He would have had the shits about that.
Yeah, it couldn't happen to a happier guy. But no, that was really cool, and I think that's what it's all about. Those human relationships build, and the banter and the good funs, and we were putting harmless shit on each other. It's
exactly.
And that's a lot of things for those that have played sport, that you probably remember those times more than the games of, hey, you remember the time Duff had to get the train home, and you all have a laugh and that type of thing, and look back on it, rather than, oh, do you remember that time I scored a try or whatnot? It's more those social side of things.
Yeah, and that's it. We had our 2010 reunion. We were just telling stories about off-field and all the funny things that happened.
Yeah.
And, they're not for this podcast, but all that sort of stuff is what you remember. And, we remember on-field, but everyone says
that's
on-field.
That's the podcast we do after 8:30 at night time.
It's not fit for
We'll
human
get you back,
consumption.
Jace, for that one.
Mate, after rugby league, you ventured into small business with a cafe and also Elite Athlete Business School. Was business always something you were interested in?
Yeah, we started Elite Athlete Business School on business partnership educator, and had been for 15 years in corporate presentations. So we started that in, I think it was 27, maybe 2015 or 2014. So it is as a way I was at uni and getting a little bit not loving the path of being it was learning all these big corporations and their stories. I said, how do I learn about small business? And you guys will know the best way to learn is jump right in and start and make your mistakes.
Absolutely.
It was a good way to do that. Is we built this Elite Athlete Business School, which was a course teaching about entrepreneurship, small business, some of the skills you have in sport and how they apply across. And started that 4 years before, and it's still going today. We do a lot of work with sporting organisations, the NRL, soccer, every sport in Australia, which is something we're really proud of. And I think it's filling a pretty important gap for athletes, learning about maybe the foundations and fundamentals, because if you don't spend a bit of time trying to personally develop, then you can come out and figure it all out late. And cafe was always a passion side of thing. I love business, so I'll continue to be in that space. I think the fundamentals of what makes you good at it can cross over from sport, but also just interesting whether they're good or bad.
Well, certainly with that, you see these elite athletes now that they're coming straight out of school, playing first grade. Some of them, or you mentioned Chase Stanley, was still at school. My career might only be 12 or 13 years. What do I do after that? Not everyone can go into the media, so they do need something, and it's good to educate them while they're still playing as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so do a little bit with the NRL at the moment. Myself, Latsy, Tim Manor, there's just about 12 of us that are transition mentors. So we have a group of people that are retiring. You just offer them advice, give them the services, making sure
Point them in the right direction.
And then the NRL centrally run that. That's probably part of what they're beefing with the RLPA over as who should be looking after these sort of things. But I think that the main thing is that someone and it's well resourced to make sure that whether that be a collaboration between the NRL and RLPA, they are looking after what happens afterwards, because it is such a huge case to solve. And this is not just rugby league, this is sport globally, and Australia does it pretty well. The NRL does it pretty well. The RLPA do it pretty well. But the more we can do in that space, the more opportunities we can create, the safer we can make it. And we're working with the NRL and RLPA at the moment on placing work experience or education, and they support that education through funding and also connecting the right suppliers.
That's good, mate. That's really good.
And even,
giving back.
Even as you mentioned, some of these kids, and I do call them kids, they're early 20s, and that could be on a good wicket. How do I manage my money and things like that? And you don't learn that stuff in school to be able to come out and, oh, hang on, I need to give $40 a week to Jason Nightingale for the bus. How's that all work and things like that? To have that type of education.
Exactly. That's why I needed a spreadsheet to run them through. Can you give me your current fuel expense, and I'll show you what the $40 a week is going to do for you on your long term. And at the end of the year, you'll have X amount in your bank account, and then that's the only way I got them to give me $40. Otherwise, I was just paying for it.
Yeah.
But that is great, and I think there's not many that aren't on a good wicket or a good wicket in terms of that. There is only a short amount of time, but understanding what to do with that. So make sure, it's not about if you play rugby league or AFL or any sport professionally in Australia for 10 years, you'll be a millionaire. But that doesn't mean that you won't want something to do or need something to do or need an income post that. So understanding that what has to happen there, you need to be a little bit more educated, and that's not the sort of stuff that I'm sure anyone learns at school. Did you learn at school how to, when you're 21, how to manage your $300,000 salary?
No. Tax, all that type of thing?
Yeah, there's so much to it. And there is some, so they have some financial education around that sort of stuff. But the more good people and mentors and the range of education around that, I think is going to be beneficial, rather than saying, here, just trust it all to your manager or trust it all to your financial planner. I think that range of information you get from industry professionals, the better you're going to be in the long term. I think that there's plenty happening in that space. But there'll be more to come, I'm sure.
Make their money work for them.
Well, even seeing now some of the players are sort of venturing out on their own and managing their own contracts, but also managing their own business interests as such while they're still playing. The likes of Kalen Ponga and those guys have got their own business of podcasting and that type of stuff. I think that's sort of going to be the way of the future as well, where these players have got a brand. How can I make the most of it there?
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think we had Shaquille O'Neal, and his story's out, but he's telling his story and how he does it. It's all here's my value, whether that be purely intellectual property based or a bit of skill set. Kalen's quite creative, and that's his skill set in creativity. Brand, the other side of it. What am I going to apply that to someone on the other side? So my business school, without my business partner, who she's education background, it doesn't work. So these ventures with, I think, collaboration is the key. So here's my skill set. What's yours?
Yeah.
My brand is good. My skill set is X. Your skill set is Y. How do we combine?
How do we put it all together?
To put it all together. I think that's where it'll go, where these opportunities will continue to build out and get bigger. And I think the brand use and the better it's managed and the more genuine it is. I think that's the thing about Kalen's stuff is he knows who he is without the jersey on. He knows what he likes. He knows who he is.
He knows the Kalen Ponga brand.
But he knows it because it's him, and he's happy to share it. I'm creative. I like taking photos. I like doing X, Y, Z. I'm going to apply that to X business and X business content creation, whatever it is. That's who I am. So it's easy to be genuine. Whereas if he's a non-smoker who is supporting a smoking brand or creating a smoking business, a vape business, it's not going to work. So I think that's finding out those bit of self-realization on who you are is going to help.
Agree.
Mate, you also, besides doing a million other things, you work for Till Payments. Tell us a bit about that. Yeah,
I'm a bit of a tech nerd, so that's my. I like tech. See, look, I've got a Samsung. Everyone else has Apples, I think that I get excited by technology, and that's my vice to nerdiness. And then, being able to harness relationships where we're FPOS provider, payment gateway, and a wholesale payments product. So that full suite. And essentially you can guess what I do there. I go out and help drive sales. So I think those things, I love people, I love opportunities, love helping, and then every now and then I've got to do a job and find out what that is, and as long as it's aligned to something I'm passionate about, interested in, works there. And it's such a fast moving industry, like it's crazy, and I love that. It's every day is different. We measure ourselves weekly, we get feedback directly, and I think that's what you crave afterwards. You got play a game, review, how did you go, what did you do right, what did you do wrong. We do that every week. What did you do right, what went well, what didn't, what are you going to do this week, what are your goals for this week, boom, finish that. How did you achieve your goals, why not, what can you do better,
we move on to the next week,
how can we help. So I like that 7-day cycle we run, and and how much things changes. Well, by the way, this happened last week, now we're doing this. Okay, sweet, it's time to pivot, let's go after this space, or build that relationship, and we build a referral network where I'll do a good job for someone, service them, you know what it's like.
Yep.
That person refers you to a friend, and then all of a sudden...
it's all word of mouth then.
You're building out your own little network of services that people can benefit from.
That's good.
How long have you been in that role?
Almost a year now. Before that I was working in another sort of fintech, but I do this in conjunction with, they're really great like that in fact I'm doing a podcast now, and it's technically on
work time.
Work time.
But I think it's about reaching those goals and what they are and how you get there. I think that's what I like about tech. The industry really speaks and breathes that you've got to do. This is what your job is. Whether you do it, they let me work in New Zealand when I'm overseeing my family. I'm working from home in New Zealand, or I live in Cronulla. The office is in Macquarie Park. Go there twice a week. It's really good because you get that engagement with all the team and that camaraderie. But it's not always practical to travel that amount of time. Sometimes I work at night. My kid's sick, I go home, and I think that's probably where
got the flexibility.
And you crave that when you're playing rugby league. You do not have any flexibility.
No,
it's
you've got to be here at this time.
Family on the back burner, and what your wife's career. But I don't care if they've got a career. It's not about what they do.
I can't come to training today. My son's crook.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah. No. Okay. Enjoy reserve grade next week.
Yeah,
exactly.
The Cutters are playing at such and such at 1:30.
See you there.
Yeah.
It's
introduce yourself.
As you said, the travel time from Cronulla to Macquarie Park, you could probably pump out an hour and a half's worth of work in that time, rather than sitting in the car driving there.
I was going to see a couple of businesses down in Kiama, and I thought, this is interesting. I'm leaving Cronulla at 8:30, and I'm going to get to Kiama. I had a 10 a.m. meeting. I looked at it and I was like, so I'm going to get there 13 minutes early. I go, just out of curiosity, how long does it take me to go to the city? It was like an hour and 25. And I was like, well, that's it. And I think that's the world's changed, and tech was there before COVID.
Yeah.
COVID's made other companies to get there, but it's not the way. There is an even balance between, especially when you're in customer-facing roles and that you need to be around your people.
You still need that face-to-face.
You do need that. But,
absolutely.
But you can't do everything from home, but you can't do everything 9 to 5 in an office.
Mate, as you said, the technology and probably the pandemic was a big eye-opener for everyone that... Zoom, I think their share market went through the roof. That we were in here once, and I know Clayton was on a Zoom call looking at plans. The builder was in Brisbane and the architect was in Perth. Like to get them, and we're in Sydney, to get them three together
on the big screen
and sorted the issue out, or had a look at the plans or whatnot in half an hour, rather than I've got to fly to Perth or these got to come to Brisbane or whatnot. Yeah. It's just so easy.
And you can still do that, and when there's time and place, but when it saves you that amount of hours, that amount of money, then it's just, you're like, how good's technology?
That's right. You come up with the answers right there.
Talk about Zoom. We were sitting there last game in Wollongong. We're playing the Tigers, I think it was, before the first lockdown. And Latsy and I were sitting there going, how can we make money? Because that old never take with the crisis. There's something miss the opportunity of a crisis or something. So that's it.
Could you hear the cogs ticking over in Lats's head or not?
Both of us were going, Zoom, good idea, Zoom. It's like literally the game before the lockdown. We knew it was coming. COVID was happening. It was firing up. Like Zoom. we're geniuses. Look at the share price; it's gone up 200% in the last 2 weeks. We're like, okay, people smarter than us thought of this a bit before we did.
We're a bit late.
We're a couple of play the balls behind.
yeah. We've been offside for this whole time.
It'd be nice to be able to jump in early to something like that but beforehand. So, mate, to finish the podcast, we ask our fast 5 questions, and they're just rapid fire to get to know you a little bit better. What would be your last meal?
Anything my wife cooked, I wouldn't care.
She's a good cook?
No.
No? Okay.
Good answer.
No, she is, but I meant but it would mean I'd have the company.
I'll take that bit out.
Good
I'll take
answer.
that bit out.
Let it
all right?
that
No,
out.
she is. Her brother's a better cook, but she is a good cook. Yeah.
Your drink of choice?
I'm boring and usually water with a bit of bubbles in it. It's pretty loose.
A bit wild there, mate.
Wow. Is that what you drank in Vegas?
No. we outside of that, I don't know. I get boring in like vodka sodas, and I don't mind a bit craft beer here and there, 2 or 3.
Very nice. Besides your running style, what is one of your weird quirks?
Mate, there's thousands. There is thousands.
We're probably asking the wrong person. Should be
Yeah,
asking
I
you
know,
what.
what's something not
Normal.
weird? Well, like, isn't it weird that I still dream about playing footy when I'm 40
No.
retired?
No, because I never played first grade and I still do that. So that's not weird at all, mate.
Look, I got hundreds. I got hundreds. I don't like odd numbers, so it's
So the
you
car
always
stereo's got to be on 22, 24 or something like that.
I did the same too, with the air conditioner.
I just
You
like
never
an even
put the air
number.
conditioner on a certain numbers, you know what I mean?
I've got 3 kids at the moment. It's still my head in.
Yeah. I've got 3 kids. He's got 3 kids.
But don't you want to get
Bit
to
odd
4?
number.
Don't I want to get to 4?
Yeah.
No.
Can you leave it at 3? That's what I mean.
My
So,
kid
yeah, that's-
days,
that's
my
sort of
kid
thing.
days
So
are
them
over,
odd
champ.
numbers.
Yeah, that's odd number. 2 is perfect. 3's just
3's a crowd.
Yeah.
And you used to wear number 2, is that correct?
5.
5, so...
I justify 5 by saying 5.
Or
10,
halfway,
15, 20,
yeah.
sort of
So
thing,
five's
That
now,
is-
five's now an even number.
Yeah, well, just
It's halfway.
Tough
Yeah,
10.
yeah.
There you go.
Exactly
Okay,
right.
yeah.
What is your favourite movie quote?
I should have prepared something for this. I had one the other day. No, I'm blanked on this. I should have prepared. I literally listened to one. It was Jonah Hill doing something. It was funny, but no, blanking.
Have you got a favourite movie then, Joe?
Blinky Bill.
Blinky Bill.
Is that due to the kids? You've seen it 1,000 times?
No, I just remember it when I was a kid.
Yes.
First movie I remember seeing.
And if heaven does exist, what would God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I suppose, how long are you going to be here for? Move around a lot. Call me Gypsy, and so I don't stay in the same place. Well, I do now. I'm a bit more well-rounded and well-grounded than I used to be, but yeah, how long are you here for?
The nickname Gypsy, did Wayne give you that, or did that start from a young age?
No, Wayne gave me that because of, I think I was homeless at the time, because I was living in Oatley in a footy house that they shut down, and I had about 6 weeks notice, and then 6 weeks expired, and I was like, oh, geez, it's that time. Like,
Today, is it?
We're here to move the furniture. And I went,
They were actually fair income when they told me I was going to move. I thought you were G'ing
oh, I
up.
thought you were Gene up. I thought you'd give me more notice than the 6 weeks you gave me, and then here, and I was like, oh, okay.
Can we renegotiate?
Okay, I'll pack up my room. And live on the road, and there was a little period where I was living out of different places. Didn't have a set home, but he got wind of it, and then also the way I played. He's like, "What are you doing, mate? You're meant to be on the wing, and you're over here. What are you doing?"
Oh, okay.
That sort of thing. And
Gypsy.
sometimes they try and talk to me, and I'd be staring at a seagull at Wynn Stadium.
Jace, mate, you're a star, and we really appreciate you coming in and giving us the time face to face like this, and getting to know the Jason Nightingale story. And mate, really appreciate you coming in and having a chat and telling us everything about you and your past and what you're currently doing now. And it's good to be able to catch up and see what you currently your workload. But mate, thanks again for giving us your time to the KRGS Doors podcast.
No worries. Thanks for having me, and well done on setting up a podcast of random things just for fun.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's our
It is
hobby.
good fun, mate. And we get to talk to superstars like you.
Thanks, mate.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you again.
Thanks, Jace. All the best.
That wraps up the 43rd episode in our chat with Jason Nightingale, a man who juggles many businesses. To check out his coffee shop in Cogra, Flow Espresso, 24 Montgomery Street, Cogra, or for details on Till Payments, go to www.tillpayments.com. If you have missed any previous episodes of the KRGS Doors podcast, you can download them from our website, www.krgsdoors.com.au/podcast, or on your favourite podcast player, search KRGS Doors. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. This also boosts our ranking and my ego. The other thing I suggest, if you've enjoyed the podcast, visit your favourite podcast player and leave a review or a rating. On our next episode, we speak to Jamie Rogers, media personality both on television and radio, and on top of that, just because she can, recently swam the English Channel. Keep your ears peeled for that chat, which is not to be missed. I've been your host, Drew Blackman, and you've been fantastic for tuning in today. As always, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Thanks. Till next time. The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au.